The genetic defense against malaria. In the middle of the 1940s in Africa, a gene known as HBS became the center of a medical and evolutionary story. Doctors began noticing that patients with sickle cell anemia were more likely to survive malaria. This observation became even more interesting when they realized that sickle cell anemia was so prevalent in Africa and India. Sickle cell anemia is an inherited disease that is caused by red blood cells that are sickle-shaped due to mutated hemoglobin, which is the critical protein that carries oxygen inside erythrocytes. With sickle cell anemia, the hemoglobin protein clumps up into long chains inside red blood cells. These sickled red blood cells prevent oxygen from making it to certain parts of the body. It is thought to have come from a genetic mutation in the early history of mankind. People who develop sickle cell disease have inherited from both parents defective versions of a gene from hemoglobin, the iron-containing protein in red blood cells that transport oxygen from the lungs to tissues in the body. People with sickle cell anemia or carriers of the disease always survive malaria even if they became infected. Malaria is caused by parasites that multiply inside of human red blood cells. The disease can only be transferred from person to person by mosquitoes, and it infects more than 300 million people and kills more than 1 million, mostly young children. Doctors wanted to know how such a bad gene that causes sickle cell disease also can be beneficial. One possibility is that a malaria infection persists in the body longer, allowing the immune system time to build up a better defense. Natural defense mechanisms against malaria are most apparent in populations that are continually exposed to malaria parasites. The blood cell abnormality, sickle cell trait, gives an increasing amount of protection against malaria as young children grow during their first 10 years of life. Between the ages of 2 and 10, immunity in children rapidly rises. Deformities in red blood cells like sickle cell anemia make it more difficult for the parasites to infect red blood cells. As the immunity develops, the disease becomes less severe and the number of parasites circulating in the blood declines. People in these regions have been naturally selected because the trait confers some resistance to malaria. The red blood cells, which contain some hemoglobin, tend to be sickle when they are infected by the parasite. The infected cells flow through the spleen, which discards them out because of their sickle cell shape, and the parasite is eliminated along with them. Individuals with sickle cell anemia in those malaria epidemic regions pass the hemoglobin S gene on to their children, who are also able to survive malaria. People who carry just one copy of the sickle cell mutation were known not to develop sickle cell anemia but lead normal lives. However, it was found that these same individuals that carried the sickle cell trait were highly protected against malaria, which explains